to interviewing. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And you got Sabina Adewale. Hopefully, we're looking forward to interviewing author Stella Samuel, all the way from America. And I'm hoping there will be a lot of people joining us live. This is our third episode, and we are hoping to get more people on board online just to see and understand how Stella Samuel arrived at her location or destination today. So I hope you've all had an amazing day. I'm still hoping there'll be people joining us live. I come on a bit early just to make sure the connections are working. I'm new to Instagram, as you know, so yeah. It's been a lovely day here. Weather is not too bad. Thank you. Oh, so Stella is... How do I get you to the... Hello! I cannot see you yet. How do I get you on board now? I'm not sure. It's not allowing me to add you. Let me see. Okay. I guess. Can you hear me?
Hi, do you see me now?
I was getting worried. I was like, oh my goodness, how do I get you to join? At last,
How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. And thank you for joining us today. It's been
thank you for having me.
Oh, I hope everything is sorted out back home.
It's not, but that's okay. You know, taking a break like this is exactly what I need.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. I'm so excited to have you on board tonight. And I'm loving your flag in the background. I can see you got a lovely flag there. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And it's been like a long journey, and just trying to get this together. I know it's just something new that I decided to start doing in my first author was in June. So you are my author number 3. And I'm not pushing it too much. I just want to do one a month just to see how it goes for now.
Oh, I think that's incredible. That's incredible.
And it's been, I think you've got 3 people watching at the moment. So I normally kind of just
Hello. Oh, I know Jude. Hi, Jude.
Yeah.
Hearing out loud, I know her too, Catherine.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Hi, guys. I don't see the third person. I don't know who the third person is.
Oh, okay. I can. Perhaps there were just 2 then. As I'm sure there'll be more people joining you live just to get to know your story, because I don't know much about you. I've only met you, I think, online. So it'll be helpful for you to kind of start to tell them how I met you, basically. Just give us a bit
you were featured in, here, let me pull up a copy of it. I have a post-it note sitting on it. You were featured this year in our annual. So your poetry is in the 2021 annual, which was an incredible venture, and I'm so honored that you were in it. And that you're not here in the United States, because this was a worldwide venture to bring authors and poets together. And it was an incredible, it's been traumatic crisis time for me in my life. But it's incredible pulling people from around the world to hear that human, or to feel, I guess, and read that human connection that we all have. And your poetry was no different. I think this journey, this annual was an incredible piece of work. I'm honored that you are in it, and you're in it.
I totally agree. I have to actually acknowledge your efforts as to how you did that anthology, and I just enjoyed the way you kind of showcased each author, and you kind of had this template that you would kind of share, and I just found that quite unique. I've been a member of perhaps about 8 anthologies now, 4 poetic ones and 4. I started off with 4 anthologies anyway, about 2 or 3 years ago. So I think you were unique in the way you showcased the authors. I thought you did a fantastic job. I liked the way you spoke about each poem, and some of them had stories. So I have to acknowledge that, and I think that deserves a 5 star. It was awesome to be a part of that journey with you.
Yeah.
I see you've got a copy of the book there. Maybe you might want to show it again in case
Yeah.
friends don't know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
tell them a bit more about the book before I get onto the questions, just an overview.
So it is 46 authors, prose and poetry, 46 of us from around the world, all coming together to share their stories, whether it's in long form prose or in poetry. And I published it myself through my publishing company, Arizona Publishing.
Wow.
I did it and I published it. My cover designer is Fantasy and Coffee, I believe is the name of his company. His name is Jonas. He's amazing. Designed my cover for last year, so this is the second year I've done this anthology.
Wow.
What else can I say about it? I mean,
I want to see the side of the book. I can see it looks quite thick because I haven't really.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
It is 350 pages. 352.
Wow. So
Yeah.
it will take about how many weeks to get through that, I guess? I've been reading the e-copy you gave us for free.
So you can get through it pretty quick. But these are amazing stories, and I was so honored to bring these stories to light. I'm telling you, I can't express enough the power that these words had at this time in my life.
Right.
And the fact that these stories are from around the world, it just proved to me in the worst moments of my life, it proved to me that we're all human and we all have a connection of love and need to belong and need to be loved and that need to be accepted. All of these stories, I didn't ask for a theme. I didn't say, hey, we're coming out of 2020, everybody write something about, the horrific year that we just survived. Somebody write about love and loss. I didn't ask for a theme, and yet we have this human connection.
Wow.
And I mean, that's what this book is all about, is the human connection. It's about love and loss and death and rebirth and survival. And it just, I read these stories and this poetry with just tears streaming, because every single piece resonated with me. Wow. I have over 250 submissions, and I took, there are 46 of us, so we had a lot of submissions.
So, oh wow, that's amazing. And that's really, truly beautiful how you've explained what the book entails. And now I'm being urged to go and carry on reading. I started reading it, but I haven't really finished it. But I think from how you've explained it, I'm going to be intrigued to start reading more at the weekend, because I thought that should be my new passion, to start reading a bit more. So I've been trying to find books that interest me. But since there's a lot of poetry in this book, I think that would be an inspiration to start maybe with the poems and then maybe get onto the stories, because I know you've got a bit of both. Yeah.
There's some really short pieces in here. There's Charles Cooper and Terry Conrad each have pieces in here that are kind of snippets, the preface for upcoming book series that they each have. And I'm editing Charles Cooper's book series that's out. I can't really give any information about it, but the short story you read in this anthology is a great snapshot of what you can expect for his coming series. And this is actually something that we might try to take to the screen as well. So I'm really excited to be...
Fingers crossed. So we should kind of keep our fingers crossed. We might be seeing you on TV soon.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think, are you from California, or what part of America are you from?
Arizona.
What? Oh, Arizona. Okay. I haven't been to that one yet. I do go to it, but not Arizona. Okay, I can find. Okay, because the name of the book is Azono. Is there any connection there? No.
Arizona is actually a combination of my 3 children.
Oh, wow.
So
That,
it's ironic though, because a lot of people know I live in Arizona and they think it's called Arizona. I'm like, no, read it. It's actually some letters of each of my three kids.
oh, wow. Okay, fantastic. They must be so proud of their mom now. Because the book is traveling all around the world. And yeah, so I've got some questions here for you, Stella. And I just kind of thought that would help the audience. I felt I haven't done one with someone that's done an anthology, and I think a lot of people might be interested to know how you can put an anthology together. So I'm hoping that might be the last question. So just to kind of prepare you, because that wasn't one of the questions I've got here. So what
Okay.
inspired you to start writing Auto Stella? Is it all right if I call you Auto Stella? Or
Sure, sure.
yeah. So
What inspired me to start writing in general?
yeah.
I think I've been a writer my whole life. I used to be one of those kids that would write stories and then stand up in my bedroom in front of all my stuffed animals and read my stories out loud.
Wow.
So, and then many years ago, I was a songwriter. So I've always been a writer of some sort. I also write, content and copy for my clients, for websites, for ads, for,
Wow.
what if it needs to be written, I write it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing then. I just wondered, this particular book, was there any reasoning behind it, or why did you think this one should be an anthology?
I actually started the idea of creating an anthology in 2018. I went back to school in 2017 and was with a bunch of writers that were about 20 years younger than me,
Okay.
and writers who were just starting out. And part of the process of going back to school for creative writing is learning how to submit and learning how to be rejected.
Okay.
And these, I'm going to call them kids, but they're not kids, but they were 15 to 20 years
Yes.
younger than me.
Right.
And rejection is hard. And we would, in these classes, we would hear like, who did you submit to and who was accepted? And we would celebrate every acceptance letter. And there were so many rejections.
Wow.
And I thought there's a market out there for people to be uplifted, because we're hearing more, I submitted, but I wasn't accepted, and that's okay. Doesn't define who I am, but I'm still submitting, and it's hard. So I didn't really do it necessarily to create a yet another space for people to submit, but I did it to uplift writers, especially new writers, because
wow.
that's the time where we need that. That's the time where, as a writing coach, I try to tell people, develop your audience, create your audience, build your following now. Even if you don't have anything, start those connections now. So I wanted to uplift writers and help them find their audience, or at least find their tribe. If they had a question, you can always reach out to me, and maybe I can help, or I can direct you to somebody I know. So that's what this was about. But that was in 2018. And we didn't get it started until 2020, where I partnered with Charles Cooper, who has a story here, and his publishing company. And then for 2021, I decided I'm just going to do this on my own. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So this is like a second anthology. You did one, a publisher published that one for you, because I was reading a bit about that, and then you went ahead to do this all by yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt it was quite challenging to pull all these different people together. It can't be an easy task to accomplish. So you have to give credit where credit is due. And
Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. And we still only got 2 people watching. I'm not sure if any of those people, if you have any questions, you can just pop them in the box. Hearing out loud, I think it is, and good think. So if you've got any questions for Author Stella, just pop it in the box, and I'm sure she'll be happy to respond. So the next question I have for you is, what inspired you to write this book? You've spoken about that a bit, I think, in that first question I asked you, and it's saying exactly what you've said, up to uplift writers. Would you say any of those writers were able to kind of go on and produce their own book, or did they overcome this issue of rejection, which I know a lot of writers and publishers face day in, day out? Would you say that?
I think we will always face rejection, and it wasn't really, to not reject people, because like I said, I had 250 submissions this year, so I had to reject several. But my hope is that with this, creating this writers tribe, that these people who I have published between 2020 and 2021 feel like they have a home, at least. They feel like they can. We had several, Sandy Stuckless, Melissa St. Pierre, who else? Several people who we published in 2020 that came back for 2021. So in that year, we had, the same authors submit again. So we've stayed in touch over the years. Some of them fall off and they're just like, you're just another anthology, and I submit to anthologies or to magazines or e-zines or whatever all the time. So, you're just another one, and they don't necessarily want or need that tribe. But a lot of them stick around and we connect, and that's what this is all about, is building a group of people that can write together, work together, learn from one another.
Right. So I have to count myself lucky if I made one of the 46 authors within the book. And this was kind of during the pandemic, was it? When you collated the different poems, was that in 2020?
Oh, I opened up submissions in January of 21. I usually open up in August. Like normally I would be opening up now. But when I did that in 2020, it took almost a year to get the book out, which is pretty typical from a publishing standpoint. But when you're a writer waiting to see your piece, it's frustrating.
It is.
So taking 6 months was hard. I mean, I crammed a lot in those 6 months. But I opened up submissions in January, and then we published in June. So it was a lot to cram in those 6 months. And I think I'm going to do that again in 22. I don't think I'm going to open up until January again.
Okay, January 2022. Okay.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's watching that might want to join Otto Samuel's next anthology, did you say January 2020?
January 2022. Yeah, and we're listed on Duotrope. If anybody follows Duotrope, you'll see it open on Duotrope. My website, stellasamuel.com. Yeah. It'll be out there. We'll start advertising for submissions in January.
I don't even know where I found you. I probably think it was in one of the Facebook groups. I think maybe you must have put something there, because I can't really.
Oh, maybe.
Possibly. Yeah. So that's handy to know. I see there's a new person that's joined, Molly.
Hi, Molly.
Yeah. So feel free to pop any questions you might have, Molly. The next question is, can you tell us a bit about the book, which again I think you might have covered in your intro, but for the person that has just joined, did you still want to tell them a bit about the book?
The anthology we're talking about the 2021 anthology, this one right here. 46 authors and short stories and poetry, and just an amazing collection of that human connection.
Right. So Molly, feel free to pop in any questions. Otto Samuel, all the way from Arizona, is here to share her journey with the world. So what did you learn while you were writing this book?
It's interesting. In these last 6 months, in these last 8 months, really, of 2021, I've learned that we can do a hell of a lot more than we think we can.
Wow.
I just said a few minutes ago, for 2020, I had a publishing partner, so I had a business partner. We did it together. He had his parts, I had my parts. This year, I did it all on my own, and I did it in the midst of crisis and trauma. And it proved to me that we can do a lot more than we give ourselves credit for.
Wow.
I mean, even today, scheduling this with you, and you know, because I've emailed you or messaged you several times. I'm like, I keep screwing this up. I keep messing up the time. I keep doing this. Like, I feel like I look incredibly incompetent. Even today, before I logged in, a contractor just left my house because my house flooded last night again for the third time in 4 weeks. So I'm in the midst of trauma. And I'm still so honored to be here with you. I probably look like I've been crying all night. I probably look like I haven't slept, because I haven't. And I have been crying like all night. I'm in like the third flood in 4 weeks. But we can do amazing things. And when we come together, sorry, my dog is talking to us. when we come together, like when we get these 46 authors from around the world and we come together and we realize that we can resonate with one another, we create that connection that spans distance and that overcomes religion and political beliefs and, you know, whatever keeps us from feeling separate all the time, we can overcome that. And that's what I learned from publishing this because of all the writers from around the world.
Yeah, that's a very strong message, actually, and I'm sure a lot of people will be able to connect with that message of strength and hope, because where the world is now, we all need that strength to keep carrying on from day to day. So if this book has been able to project that message and connecting people from across the globe, then I guess it's a book that everyone should try and have on their bookshelf. I didn't have the hard copy. I'm actually thinking I might have to go for it now on Amazon, because I was reading the e-copy that you gave us. So if anyone wants a copy of this book, where can they get it from? Because this sounds like
wherever books are sold. You can special order it from your indie bookseller who, you know, might not have it on the bookcases because real estate is prime. But you can buy it wherever books are sold. You can buy it online at Barnes & Noble. You can buy it at Amazon. You can buy it in any countries where Amazon sells, wherever books are sold. I actually just shipped one to India from a printer that is somewhere near India.
Right.
So it's available around the world wherever books are sold.
Wow. Okay. There's something about some of the stories that you shared within the book. Did you kind of want to elaborate on any of the stories there, or is there any personal connection from your heart? Because I'm just kind of reading something very sentimental here. I don't know, is that something?
Are you reading something sentimental that I wrote?
Yes.
What are you reading?
Oh my goodness. Something to do with your daughter, your dog, a friend. Yeah. Is that something you feel privy to share?
Are you talking about my trauma?
Yeah. You wrote that in here, that's what you've learned about writing this book. That's
interesting. I have my answers here somewhere, but I'm sorry about my dog. She wants me to play.
Okay.
I have my answers here that I sent to you, but I don't want to stand here and read them. I don't remember what I said.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. It's just a guide. Yeah. Guide the interview, but if you feel you want to share on that, that's fine. Sometimes I just put in like a to remind the authors in case but if you feel you just want to go outside of that, that's okay. But some people will be able to connect with your story.
My dog, I mean, she's like, she hears your voice and she's like, well, I don't understand why the two of you aren't playing with me.
Oh, hello, Nikki.
I just don't understand.
Nikki, love, and
so it's it.
Is she going to keep backing throughout the interview, or?
I hope not.
Okay.
I hope not, but I can move. I can move somewhere else too.
Okay. I'm loving the flag you have in the background.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice.
And that's another thing that, you know, like from all of the writers around the world and there was one story in here. Oh my goodness, I have to remember his name and I don't remember his name. Mark, he wrote Route 66, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I emailed him because the content of the story, and it's a terrific story, but I kind of gave him this warning. I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm a lesbian. And I just want to tell you, like, I don't release that to everybody. I mean, if you know me, you know my brand, then you know, but you know, that's not like a prerequisite. You don't have to write LGBT stuff. You don't have you don't even have to appreciate who I am or accept who I am to be published with me. Right. But I emailed him and I was like, I just want you to know, because this is very political, and if it makes you uncomfortable to be published by a lesbian, then I want to make sure, you know who I am. And he was like, totally cool. My daughter's gay, you know. Wow. So it's just another reminder that we're all human.
Of course, yeah. And it's one world out there, and we have to be accepting of everybody, race, culture, sexuality.
Yeah.
Just like the Black Lives Matter and everything, it's all one world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find the story in that paragraph quite touching, and yeah, so it's kind of an what's the right words now? I feel a bit privileged that you share that information with me, and I just kind of thought.
Well, it's funny because I just found what I wrote, and so I see what you're saying. So here's
yeah,
what I said. If you want me to read it, because it's
yeah,
I don't know that I could even tell it.
okay,
And I won't read the whole thing. I'll start at the bottom because I've kind of already addressed, how
yeah,
rough 2020 was for all of us as a world, not just me, not just my family, not just our nation, but
yeah.
our world. So I said, for me personally, 2021 has been more difficult than 2020. I lost my daughter this year.
Wow.
I'm gonna cry.
I'm so sorry.
My dog. I'm losing my other dog soon. Funny enough, I just had a contractor here, and that dog that I said I'm losing soon, I really thought I would have said goodbye to already. She peed on the floor while my contractor was here, and I was in another meeting, and he cleaned it up for me. I mean, like, that's the humanity that I'm talking about. I was like, don't worry about it. I'll get it. I'm on the phone right now. Don't worry about it. And he's like, I got this. So he went through my kitchen, found my paper towels, cleaned it up. So anyway, I keep going. I lost a friend to suicide this year. I lost the greatest love I've ever known.
Wow. Yeah.
We all survived the toughest year we can remember, and lost it all in the first few months of a year we thought we'd all begin to recover. The pieces I wrote, and I wrote 2 pieces for this annual, a short story and a poem, were a tribute to facing my emotions after great loss, suicide, love, and everything I'd learned or everything I'd leaned into for safety and security, just gone in a series of tiny instances.
Wow.
So that's where my writing comes from, and it's where all of my writing comes from.
Oh wow, that's very powerful actually, and touching at the same time. It's kind of overwhelming.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot I had sent that to you.
No, well, I think it's good to have an understanding of where the author is coming from, and just to kind of, some people were able to connect with some of the loss. Also, there's been a lot of losses during the pandemic in 2020, and I know a lot of people are still grieving or bereaving and mourning, and just trying to have an understanding is why I felt it's important to kind of share that part of your journey. So thank you for sharing that. I know it can be quite touching. When I read that, I didn't even know how to process it. I just felt, man, I'm just going to wait. I didn't want to start texting and asking questions, but yeah. But so thank you for sharing that, and thank you. What's your dog's name? Because she's part of this interview.
Her name is Arizona. She's very high needs. She's been through some trauma this year too, and so she's very attached to me.
Is she a puppy or a dog?
She's 3. She's a chocolate lab. Here, I'll show her to you.
Yeah. Oh wow! Look at her.
She wants to play. She's got her little bear, and she's like, "Play with me already."
Oh.
I hear you talking. Just play with me. So yeah.
Is it my voice?
Yeah.
All right. She wants your attention. Okay. So let's ask her this next question then, Arizona. What surprised you the most when you were writing this book?
That human connection, that the fact that we've lived in 2020 with such turmoil from our health to politics to we were so divided, especially in our nation, but across the world we were so divided.
Wow.
And we're just not. And I think when I read these pieces and I saw these authors from countries that wouldn't welcome me in their spaces without my hair covered, or as a woman, or as a gay woman, I wouldn't be welcome just in their spaces. They submitted to me and they trusted me with their creativity.
Wow.
And I got it out there, and it touched me, and it resonated with me, and it should resonate with most of my readers as well, or their readers, because we're all human, because of that incredible human connection
we have. And that's quite true actually, because even have been trying to write my own story throughout the pandemic, and I just realized how much connections I've had that I didn't even realize. I'm 54 now, and I began to write, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many connections here. One person leading on to another, and it's quite interesting from what you've explained how the world goes round in circles, and you just find out you meet people in this country, you move out to another country, you connect with them again, or it's the father or the mother or the cousin, you know. So how
Yeah.
powerful that can be. Yeah. So when you do your writing, Auto Stella, where do you get your ideas from?
Usually from real life, or pre-pandemic, I would go out and kind of create my own stories, just people watching,
No.
just,
Okay.
imagine what is that conversation going on over there, or what are they arguing about?
Mm.
Uh,
Wow.
the emotion always stems from something I have gone through personally,
Mm.
or somebody I love has gone through personally. So I will bring a lot of my world
Into
in
it.
without telling, my story. I still bring those pieces
Together.
in.
Do you find that that's kind of like a healing journey for you? Does that help, or is that
Yeah.
just something you've always done?
Writing is very cathartic anyway, whether you just write in a journal or
Mm.
you do creative writing, it's very cathartic.
It is. It is. So if there was anyone out there watching, like I've got Nikki, Molly, and they wanted to start their own writing, what would you advise them? What would be the best way for them to start?
Just start, just write. Write every day. Don't think about it. Don't worry or wonder if you're doing it right. Don't edit. Certainly not while you're writing. I mean, I would certainly edit. I teach the writers I coach to self-edit and how to self-edit, but don't do it while you're writing.
Okay.
Don't worry about commas. Don't worry about, whether or not it's right. Just get it done from start to finish, and then go back and worry about the technical stuff. But the writing part is the toughest part, and people tend to get stuck in the commas, the grammar, the rules. Am I good enough? What will other people think? So my first thing would be to write for you, not think. I'm not a write to market kind of person. And there are plenty of authors who write to market because they just want to sell a bunch of books. That's also why I don't have several books out right now, because I write for me, not the market that would sell, publish every 6 months.
Okay. So you haven't got like a target audience as such. You just kind of write from the heart and.
Well, I used to say I write books that make women cry. And I kind of say that because I think that every piece I write is an emotional, heartwarming or heart-tugging, tearful piece, whether it's a novel or a short story or a short film. Always emotion in my pieces. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's just for women, but that's mostly my audience, and I tend to make them cry.
Make them cry. Okay. So I'm prepared now. When I'm going to get this paperback, I should have a bucket and a box of tissues, I guess. Okay. So what's your writing process like? When do you write, or how do you get your creativity? I know you mentioned you kind of go out and you might just be watching people, but what's your writing process like?
I like to write early in the morning. So I like to wake up, 5 o'clock in the morning, go for a run and start writing before anybody wakes, while the house is quiet. Or I like to write really late at night, like in the middle of the night is ideal. Cup of coffee is necessary, or a glass of bourbon.
Oh, wow.
Those are, and I just sit down and write. I typically start scenes just by writing them, just by, kind of creating them in my head and writing them out. And then I will go back and outline the pieces that I need to fill in.
Oh, wow. So do you kind of come up with like a table of contents first? If you're writing a novel, for instance, would you already have your chapters marked out, or you just write as it comes to you?
I'm not that organized.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I write poetry, so I haven't really, this is my first book I'm writing now, so I had to do an outline, is why I asked. But my other ones I just write as it comes to me, you see. So I was just curious to know that maybe if you're writing a novel and they said you need to have a structure, everything needs to be plotted, and you know who your characters are. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'll start with an idea and then I'll kind of grow that like a snowball. And
Right.
then once I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I got to figure out where this is going or how I'm going to close this. Or
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have a start and a close, but I don't have the middle. And then,
Right.
so I just kind of middle. And then when I get to that I'm stuck point or I need to move
Okay.
forward point, then
Right.
I will sit at my dining room table with index cards and index the rest of it out.
Oh, wow. So how long did it take you to finish? Because you had different authors from around the world, to kind of compile the book itself. How long did that take to get everything together as one document?
I submitted it to the printer in April. So I started taking submissions in January, submitted it to the printer in April. I think I had copies come back that I had to resubmit 6 times.
Oh,
So
wow. Wow.
probably, yeah, I was like, oh no, I found this error and I found
Oh,
that. I was the only reader. I was the only editor. So I didn't have anybody but me
oh,
proofread.
wow. Okay.
And oddly enough, when it came, so I got my first proof copy.
Yeah.
And I gave it to a friend of mine who was a journalist. And
Yeah.
I asked, like, can you just read this? Just proof it. I've edited it, but just proof it for me and you know, see if you found anything. And she found one typo in my story. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
like,
One.
my story, because nobody's read it. I'm the only one that's read it.
Oh,
And it's
fantastic.
really for my work.
Yeah.
So it took 6 months from the time I opened to the time it was published.
Oh, so you're doing an amazing job as an editor, I would say, if there was only one error in a 350-page book. So well done. Thank you, Kainde, for joining. And if you've got any question for author Stella Samuel, all the way from Arizona, just pop it in the box and I'm sure she will be happy to answer your questions. So you spoke about having coffee or a bourbon while writing.
Yeah.
So I'm not into a sin. What's that? And I have ADD. I can get. Is that
Yeah.
attention deficit disorder? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you
ADD.
know, yeah.
I have desk toys in my desk. I have desk toys and fidget cubes and what are these called? I cannot sit still and focus for a long time, which is really tough for a writer, because when you're writing novel length books, which I also have novels, you need to be able to sit down and pound out, 10,000 words or more in one session.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I can't do it. So I dictate a lot, and then I go back and edit and rewrite. I do a lot of walking and dictating, and then I do a lot of playing at my desk, where I did an interview with one of the authors recently, and I was like this the whole time. I was like, what is that? Oh, that's me. I'm distracted myself.
So you are doing quite well tonight then. You've not really been, apart from the dog who's calmed down at the moment, you've been quite focused. Yes. So what advice would you have for any writer? I know we touched on it a bit earlier on. Or if you were to advise anyone new joining and they're writing their first novel, what advice would you be able to share with them? Thank you, Deco, for joining, and Kainde as well. You've got author Samuel live all the way from Arizona, talking about her book. So what advice would you have for a new writer?
I said earlier, just write, keep writing. I would say I guess the most common struggle I get when I coach is, I had this scene in mind and I wrote it and it was really great and then I got stuck. And my advice there is stick a pen in it and move on. So what is your next scene? Write your next scene and get out of the stuck, get out of the muck, the writer's block, and keep writing. And it's hard when you have writer's block and you can't think of what's going to happen next. Yeah, it's hard to keep going, but it's okay to just bookmark it and come up with your next scene. I teach kids, or I used to before the world closed. I'll go back to it one day, but I always tell the kids, to ask the what if questions. So if you're stuck in a scene, just ask yourself, what if, and think of something really wild. What if the phone rang? Who would be on the other end? What if somebody knocked on the door? Who would be there? And then write that. You don't have to keep it, but you'll get those creative juices flowing at least. So just keep writing. And build your tribe, which we talked about earlier, is kind of what this anthology was all about, was building a tribe. Connect with other people who do what you do, because they understand the frustration, the writing cave, you know, and how quiet and lonely it can be. You know, writing is not typically a collaborative deal unless you're, you know, working on a project together.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful to know. I believe there's lots of author groups out there, and I find the writing community very supportive of each other, and it's kind of nice to hear that from other authors. Connect with other authors or writers or poets, build your audience. So how do you balance making demands on the reader with taking care of the reader? How do you do that?
You know, it's funny because readers tend to want certain things. And I said earlier that I don't typically write to market. I write for me, but there are still rules. Like if you're a romance writer, there are rules. You have to have a happy ending in a romance. You can't kill off your main character in a romance story and still keep your audience happy. You have to have that happy ending, which is why I don't typically write, you know, typical romance. But you have to know the balance between knowing those rules and breaking them. And you have to know how to walk that fine line between breaking them. So if you, for instance, kill off a main character, which happens, you have to be able to fill that void with your reader so that they keep going. But every now and then you also want to disappoint your reader. So they're, you know, they throw the book down, they walk away and they're like, you know, and they come back because they want to know what happens next.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. New today, not to kill off your main character in a romance and he has to have a happy ending.
Just in kill off anywhere else, but just in romance they have to live because they have to have their happy ever after.
Okay. So what would they use to fill the void? As I mean, they've killed off the main character. Is that common to kill off your character?
It happens. It happens probably more in TV than or more in long series than it does in you know, standalone novels.
Books.
Main character in a standalone novel, but you could in a series because you would have, you know, an ensemble of characters. And so later on, you know, your audience will be disappointed, but typically you fill that void with either, you know, a different story or a different character.
Oh wow.
It happens in TV often.
Yeah. So do you, I can see Arizona. We are nearly getting to the end of this interview. She's doing very well. She's actually being a bit quiet for about 10 minutes now. I was just going to ask, do you put the readers before your own thoughts in your books or in your writing? But sometimes do you think about the audience, what they might think? Or are you just kind of writing from the heart?
I typically write from the heart. I write for me. There are things that I've written that I've had, and I always have beta readers. So, and I've gotten feedback from my beta readers where I've changed some things, but typically I don't change. I will say, and I will say this especially to new writers, if your beta readers are telling you that you should change something, you should really consider changing it because those are your readers and they're a good representation of the masses of people who will read your book. And they probably know the alternative, which is what you wrote, because everybody's going to, readers expect certain things. So they're probably going to expect something. And if you know, a handful of beta readers expect it, then most of your audience is going to expect it as well. And if you haven't provided it, then you're probably going to be a disappointment.
Thank you.
But with that, you know, like I said earlier, know the rules and then break them. I write for me. There was in my novel 34 Seconds, I think there were some disappointing things that some readers didn't like and others were like, oh yeah, that didn't bother me. I did get some feedback from beta readers that were like, I think you should take this out. I think there's a little too much sex, or I didn't like that the death scene, because there is a death scene in there, lasted so long. But for me, it was important to keep, especially that death scene. It was probably a quarter of the book. And it's 36 hours, but it was really important for me to keep in there, and I wasn't going to change it. Readers might,
okay.
But I didn't change it.
I'm sure the book went on to become a bestseller and it's doing so well. So the better reader had to keep that to themselves. Yeah. Yep. So thank you, Yan Lau, all the way from Nigeria. You've got another person, Decor, joined from I'm not sure where. Thank you for joining us. We've got Otto Samuel, Stella Samuel from Arizona, and to be honest, Otto Samuel, you have done so well. You're one of the authors that has finishing this within 45 minutes. So I've got this last question for you, and then you might want to tell us a bit about how to compile an anthology if you are willing to share that info. So this question is, do you believe in writer's block? And how do you overcome it?
I do believe in writer's block. We get blocked as creatives. It doesn't matter if you're a writer or if you're a painter or sculptor. You can get stopped in your creative process at any point. So I absolutely do believe in writer's block, but I don't believe that it should stop us from creating. Right. So I actually had a mentor in the film industry, Dave Chartier, who wrote the Screenwriter's Bible, and he said to me once, you can't use writing anymore as your creative outlet. So for those of us who are writers and we journal or we write just because it makes us feel better or it's how we get out our creative juices, if we write all day long professionally, which is what I do, we need a different creative outlet. And it didn't really dawn on me until I met him, and he said, you need something different. Wow. And here's why: because you will develop this creative block that will hit you, and you'll go to writing to resolve it, and it won't resolve because you're blocked from creativity using your same creativity. So he told me to take up a different creative process, like painting, which I used to paint. I used to play guitar. I had time to do that in years. But that's what I would recommend for writer's block: is take a break from the writing, go take a walk, go walk through nature, go watch a movie if you want, go read somebody else's writing, paint something, you know, or like I said earlier, drop this you're working on and start a whole new scene. If you feel like I have to write, start something different. Start right the end, the end, and you know, come back to where you were. But yeah, writer's block is real.
It is real, yeah. And so you've given us a lot of reasons as to how to kind of get ourselves out of writer's block, and some of the things you've listed are some of the things I do already. If I can't write, I go off and ride my bike, or I start cooking, and you know, and sometimes it does help to bring it back. So
I had, let me share this real quick because it's kind of funny, and it kind of taps into my personality. So several years ago, I was writing a book that's not published yet. It's called What May Come. That's the working title right now, and it's paranormal. Right. And stuck in this scene, and typically when you're stuck in the end of your book, it's because something is wrong in the beginning of your book. Okay. You have to go back that far. You have to go back to Act 1 and fix Act 1 before you can tie up your Act 3. So anyway, I had this block, and I was like, I can't get my head past like what should happen here, or how is this going to happen? And so I was cooking dinner. Right. And I'm in the kitchen and I'm just cooking along, and I turned around and I was like, what if she's not dead? Oh gosh. And my family looked at me and they were like, what's going on here? Happened, and it solved the entire problem. Did it? What if she's in a coma? So go cook. Go for a walk. Go do other things, and it'll come to you. Oh, fantastic. That's interesting. What if she didn't die? Were you kind of verbalizing your inner thoughts then to kind of say out aloud and see if that might help? So I suppose different writers have got different techniques or different writing processes, and we're all different, and we all have our own unique way of writing. And that's the good thing about creativity. It's about you and your uniqueness. So that's a very, very good interview, which we've covered within 46 minutes. And the only last question I was going to ask you was if there was anyone watching or anyone out there. I know a lot of people struggle a bit. They've been thinking about how do you compile anthologies and all that. Is that something that's easy, or
I know a lot of people have been saying to me, for instance, you've been writing so long, why don't you do an anthology? And I have been part of anthologies, but I am a bit scared that I don't really know how they coordinate this thing. I don't really want to put myself out there. So this question is not for me personally. I just think there might be other people out there who might be interested, who are going to watch this recording back, because I would upload it on YouTube as well. And it wouldn't just be on Instagram. So I think it would be helpful if you just wanted to give us some tips, if that's okay.
Sure. I would say if you want to create an anthology for your own writing, that's
Yeah.
probably easier than creating an anthology of like this one with 46 writers. So if you have like you write poetry, if you have, several dozen poems, put them all in a book and publish them, and you can do that on your own, and that's easier. For an anthology to showcase other writers, I'm a publisher and an author. It wasn't hard for me, but I will say it's time consuming. And it's costly. You have to buy your ISBNs. I had to pay a cover designer. There's definitely a lot that you have to put into it. And this is an anthology that this is my second year doing it. Maybe 1 year we'll make some money, but this year I've recovered my cost, and that's probably as far as it will go. I mean, I might sell a few more copies, especially with interviews like this, but my goal here isn't to make this a money maker. It's to get names out there. It's for the writers who are in it to build their portfolios, for them to feel like I'm a published author now. I'm not just a writer. This is where we get stuck often when we're new. It's not hard, but it's time consuming. So expect for some money into it, because you just publishing costs money. Even if you self-publish, you still need ISBNs and you still need a great cover that will sell. And if you're not an editor, you need a great editor.
Poems, of course, because you've got other people's poems or stories in your book, so you want to make sure it sounds right. Wow. Okay, I didn't even think of that, because sometimes you would assume the writer has already edited their work, but at the end of the day, you still want it to sound right, so you have to put into account editing cost as well. Wow.
Yeah. So there's some costs involved. And, I mentioned ISBN earlier. I did ISBN because I do worldwide distribution. But if you want to publish on Amazon, you can use Amazon's ASIN if you want, and that's free. But I still say if you want to sell anything, you need a great editor and you need a great cover designer.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's very handy and helpful to know, at least. So anyone watching, Yanla, DH Deco, I can't remember the names of the other three that were on before. If you want to process your own book, you see you've got the tips, you've got the ideas there, so you can contact author Stella, and she might be able to even publish it for you or edit it, because I think you've got all these different things that you do. So I just think you could give us like
for other people.
Yeah, a closing, just to tell us if they want to pick up your book, where they can get it, if they want a signed copy, and then if there's any questions, no one has asked you any question, that means you've explained everything very clearly. I think the other two authors have questions coming in. So I just wanted to thank you, author Stella.
I just lost you for a second.
No, maybe that wasn't actually
the word. Pause.
You trying to pause me?
No, I didn't. The world did. This is the universe. It was not me.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that person was trying to call into the show. I have no idea. It's my sister-in-law she's visiting at the moment. Yeah. So just kind of thank you for being on air tonight. I think it's been amazing. I've learned a lot from listening to you. I'm kind of looking forward to getting the paperback now and probably give it a proper read now that I can see from what you've shared where your writing journey has come from and what kind of has influenced some of your stories or poems. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I was planning to just read the poems, but now I think I will probably go ahead and read a bit more.
I tell you that even outside of America, the first story in here is called We Ran Up, and next month we as a world face the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and this is a 9/11 story. We ran up. It's heartbreaking, and it puts you right back in those moments. And it's an amazing piece. If I have a moment, if you mind, I can throw out Keija Fisher, who is a poet. Her poem, Pretty for a Colored Girl, is my absolute favorite piece in this entire anthology. And it's about what young girls and women, especially those of color, need to hear and feel, and the validation that I as a woman who's not a colored woman needs to be offering, that uplifting, that shock, that so read this.
Read her one. Okay. Empowering each other. Women empowering women is called now. And the world is a one. So we need to empower each other, and hopefully the connections will keep going, and maybe one day this world will become one. And I think that's probably where it's going eventually, because I can see all the multi-biracial weddings happening now. So
I think important in this anthology, it's important to remember that these are 46 authors from around the world. From, and I don't remember, I want to say it was like 13 or I think it was 13 countries, maybe it was 18, I don't remember. Around the world, and every piece resonated with me. And I'm a white girl from the desert in Arizona in the United States. So that spoke volumes to me, that these pieces resonated with me. They should resonate with everybody, and they should remind us that we're all human, and we have that very important human connection that we need to remember.
Okay. And I think that's a very good place to end this interview. So I want to thank you for your time tonight, and I want to thank Arizona as well for joining the interview. It's been amazing to hear her in the background, and I do wish everything goes well for you. Well, thank you. And that's me for this episode, and I look forward to connecting with you on Twitter. And what I'm going to do is I would upload this on YouTube as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been amazing. I have actually learned a lot, and I just wanted to thank the two people still watching us, and I'm sure a lot of people would go back and watch it after. So thank you, Stella, and have a good evening. It's about 8:30 here in the UK. I'm not sure what time it is at your end. Is it morning there? I've lost your audio. Okay, then I'm going to say bye-bye to you then. Thank you. Thank you for watching, everyone that joined us tonight. And we hope to be back on air in about a month's time. Thank you. And then tune into our YouTube channel, and you'll be seeing this on Instagram as well. Like our videos and share it if possible. Thank you. Bye-bye.